Hey, what's up? Well, back again, back with another video. And although I wish I could wait longer so that they would finish the stupid grass cutting, I'll just go ahead and make this video before my dad gets home. And what I like to talk about is something that I had kind of planned at my mom's house, or I'm not sure when I started wanting to make this video. But I would like to title this video, Farting is Not an Act of Dominance, okay? And I just so happen to be wearing the same shirt, the same exact purple shirt that I was wearing when I made the video entitled Farting is Gross. Okay, see how time flies? And I stated in that video that it was my last opportunity to make a video in March of 2020. Here we are, March of 2023, so 3 years later. 3 Marches later, and my nails actually match my shirt. So you see, that's what happens when you take care of your clothing. You get to wear it for many years. And I've always been like that. I've always, taken care of my clothing, valued my clothing, and between my mom and I, we've always been able to kind of make it to where my clothing lasts a pretty long time. Okay, and that's kind of how I like to lead into this video. I'd like to say that farting is not an act of dominance, and I really hate that. The way men in particular, will always interpret things in such a way, in a way that deals with hierarchies among people. This work. Like, it's just ridiculous. This person is weak, this person is strong, this person is dominant, this person is submissive, this person is masculine, this person is feminine, regardless of what genitals they happen to have. And it's just ridiculous, because this idea that wearing pants means that you're dominant, or it's an act of dominance. Well, no, it isn't. It should be an act of, I want to cover my legs, okay? That's all it should ever mean. To wear pants, you wear pants because you want to cover your legs, usually because it's cold, okay? And so, this crap about being dominant or being submissive, well, that has nothing to do with my motivations for doing the things that I do in life, okay? And I just want to talk about how ridiculous that is. This idea that, farting is an act of dominance and women don't do it in the women's room because they're submissive and they wouldn't want to offend someone. Well, that's bull, okay? Because I have and always will use the women's room for its intended purpose, okay? I've never cared, never. As long as the way I feel about farting, as I've stated before in my very first video about it 3 years ago, is a normal body process, a natural bodily function that is totally fine in the toilet, okay? When you're on the toilet, it's totally fine. When you're not on the toilet, it is wrong, and it's gross and disgusting, and any other adjective, okay? So that's the way I feel about it. I believe that what's wrong is to fart in your clothing, not farting in and of itself. It isn't the sound of it that I have a problem with. It isn't the embarrassment factor of people knowing I have bodily functions. It is the idea that I have that if you fart in your clothes, you are not toilet trained. You're not adequately toilet trained if you are farting in your pants with wild abandon, okay? Because I believe that potty training includes all 3 states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. And, I believe that if you're not toilet trained to hold all 3 states of matter until you sit on the toilet, then you are just as untrained as the baby in the diaper, okay? That's the way I feel about it. You are no better than a baby in a diaper. In fact, you're worse, if you're much older than that. If you're just farting in your clothes like there's nothing wrong with it, and you have brown stains in your pants, well, to me, it's a lot more shameful to be a fully grown adult with stains in your pants and who farts in your clothes all day than it is to just be a baby in a diaper if you're under 3 years old, okay? I am much less ashamed of the fact that I was 2.5 as opposed to 18 months or younger when I potty trained. I would be, yeah, that is much less shameful than it would be to fart in my clothes. You know what I'm saying? If you're supposedly potty trained at 18 months, but yet you fart in your clothes as an adult, to me that's a lot more shameful than someone like me that was 2.5 and it all happened very quickly. No accidents, no regressions thereafter. Someone like me who was pretty much trained overnight around 2.5 when my mom took away the diapers, but yet I don't fart in my clothes. I just will not. It's all about dignity. It's not so much the value even of the clothes. It's about my dignity as a woman. I'm not going to fart on the very part of my body that defines me as a girl. You know what I'm saying? It's about the fact that, what I have down there is, of course, closer to my butt than what a man has. And that's something that, I hate the Deeker site because one thing he never mentions on the whole site, about the differences between boys and girls, is that it's actually a blessing in disguise for girls that we have 3 holes within a close proximity to one another. That's not a design flaw. That's not a weakness. That is a good thing. The fact that we have 3 holes, for 3 different systems. We have our excretory, that's urine, our reproductive, that's our periods once we reach maturity, and then the digestive system, they're all 3 within close proximity to one another down there. And as a result of that, it's like we know instinctively, just intuitively, that we shouldn't fart in our clothes or when we're not on a toilet or in the bathroom, undressed from the waist down. We shouldn't do that because of those 3 holes being in close proximity. And that's also why, it's so imperative to be clean for yourself as a woman, whether it's bathing, showering, using the bathroom, etc. We just can't be so lax about our bathroom habits because of the fact that we have 3 holes within close proximity. And in the days before antibiotics, before there were drugs that could treat a woman that contracted some kind of an infection from being filthy, you could easily die. And if you died, then you wouldn't survive to have children of your own. Okay? So, that's something he never mentions, is the fact that, I don't believe in evolution, but obviously he's an atheist. And so if you believe that we evolved, from whatever, you would believe that the women who were maybe less hygienic would theoretically have died out quicker than the men who are that way. Okay, because they wouldn't have died. You see, they're not going to get a urinary tract infection, although they can get pilonidal cyst and other problems. They can have medical issues from not being clean, but they usually don't get urinary tract infections and things like that because the holes are pretty far apart depending on the guy. And the older they get, the further apart they get for obvious reasons. So for a woman, it becomes even more important to be clean, once you start having a period and all that. But for men, it's the opposite. It's like, as they reach puberty, their urethra gets even longer. And so if anything, they're at a decreased risk of infections and things happening because they're not clean. So, really everyone should be clean. Ideally, as I stated before, it would be men and women, but it's especially women. And I'm just not going to fart in my clothes. And, I will hold it like I will get out of bed. I don't care how cold it is or how much I don't want to get out of bed. I will get out of bed, just to do that in the toilet. I treat every fart. Here's how I put it. I'd rather overestimate a fart than underestimate something else, even one time. I'd rather treat every fart like it's a potential you-know-what then vice versa. Okay, you can never be too cautious. And so I will not fart in my clothes. And I consider people who do fart in their clothes to be disgusting and not completely toilet trained. And one of the many reasons I don't want to have any children and never did is because I'm afraid they would jeopardize that fart control that I have. I'm afraid that, having a baby could damage my ability to hold in my gas until I'm sitting on the toilet. So, yes, I will fart in the women's room. I will not start using the men's bathroom, and think of the women's room as somewhere that people don't use it for its intended purpose. Because, women may not do it as loudly as possible. I would certainly never try to have a contest with somebody anywhere because I think that's absolutely rude and disgusting. Okay, but when you're on the toilet, that's the one and only place that you should ever fart, and certainly on purpose. Okay. You should never fart anywhere but the toilet on purpose, like, actually pushing it out. Nowhere else in the world should that ever happen. Um, so, it's basically, there's a book called How Rude by Alex J. Packer, and I didn't read the whole thing, but I flipped through it, and one of the things they say is that, sounds in the bathroom are in the does not exist category. You should never acknowledge other people's sounds in the bathroom, okay? So when you're on the toilet, it really shouldn't matter, and if someone does acknowledge it, you just ignore them because it's immature and you just pretend not to notice, them laughing at you. You know what I'm saying? Which I've never had that happen. I mean, it's never been an issue. I just use the women's bathroom. I always have, always will. And I will not just fart in my clothes. I will not fart in my pants because I think that's disgusting. And as I've stated before, it's not about so much the sound or, what other people are going to hear and smell as it is about respecting myself as a female, as a woman, as someone with 3 holes in close proximity to one another, and not wanting to, not wanting to fart on that part of my body, and even just a microscopic amount of crap is just too much. It's just, it's something, I feel like as long as you're able to hold it until you sit on the toilet, you should. I mean, why wouldn't you? I'm not just going to let it out, just the same way I wouldn't pee on myself the minute my bladder fills up. You know what I'm saying? I would never, it's all interconnected, and just as I'm not going to like just pee all over the place, to get temporary relief from a full bladder, I'm not going to pee all over this couch. I'm not going to fart either. That's the way I feel about it. I'm not just going to blow the farts out. I'm never going to, lift a leg and just blow it out in my clothes because I think that's rude, disgusting, and it's disrespecting yourself as a woman. Even when I'm totally alone, as I am right now, my dad's not home, and I don't have anybody else that would hear me or care. But you know what? I'm still not just going to blow my farts out or, deliberately fart in my clothes, because it's just, I'm just not a risk taker. And I don't believe that it is proper. I don't believe that it's ladylike. And I believe that, if you really need a fart that badly, why not just go pee on the toilet and do it simultaneously? See, that's another reason you don't really hear women farting in the bathroom. Because, they release both of them simultaneously when they pee. And we don't try to do it loudly, Sometimes the pee actually muffles that sound. But, it's just not something, it's not an act of dominance, it's not something you should really do on purpose, for anyone to hear. It's just something, it's just a natural bodily process. It is a gaseous form of bodily waste. It's just one of 3 states of matter that should be done in the toilet. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just not gonna fart in my clothing, to avoid sitting on a toilet. I think that's about the stupidest thing you can ever do, is avoid the toilet when it's available. And because the way I feel about it is that, there are just no advantages. There are no advantages to avoiding the toilet, none whatsoever. You're not going to get a trophy. You're not going to win an award. You know what I'm saying? There's no advantage to holding yourself unnecessarily, and not sitting on the toilet. But yet there's all the disadvantages in the world of not being able to hold it. You know what I'm saying? Of holding it past the point where you can't. I'd much rather underestimate my ability to hold it than overestimate at all. And that's why I did not understand my little sister. How could she, how could she think anything was more important than using the toilet? Sometimes my mom, it depended on what mood she was in, but sometimes she would poop in her pants after doing it several times, having done it several times recently at the time. And it's like my mom would just get so mad at her because she would say she thought it was gas. That was one of her famous excuses. And she was playing the piano or doing something and she just couldn't stop in time. Okay, and my mom would get so mad. She'd say, there is nothing more important than not SHITTING your pants. And she would get so mad at her sometimes because she would do it so frequently. Like, she would have times when she would do it frequently, and then she'd have other periods of time where she didn't at all, and we'd think she was cured, but then she'd relapse. And it was all, it was withholding, and it would cause her to have issues with both functions. She would do all these weird little dances to try to hold her pee in when we were at the store. Instead of saying, Mama, let's go to the bathroom, I need a pee. No, she would like bounce around, and my mom had to be the one to say, do you need a pee? And sometimes she would agree and she would go, but she would try to put it off. She would sit on her foot when she was doing her homework to try to hold her bladder. And I thought that was the stupidest thing in the world. We're talking about a junior high or high school girl. I mean, not even just when she was little anymore. And I just never understood that because, see, as I've stated before, there are no advantages, none. You can't strengthen that muscle by holding it. It's not a skeletal muscle in there. It's a smooth muscle. And all that's going to happen is you're going to weaken the signals from your brain to your bladder and your butthole. And it's like once your body figures out that you're not going to use the bathroom, you're not going to take care of business, well, it'll stop sending those signals and you're just not going to feel it anymore. And that's what happens. Both enuresis and encopresis go hand in hand. And, there are, as I stated before, there are no advantages to avoiding the bathroom. The toilet is your friend. I've always felt that way, ever since I was potty trained. The toilet is your friend, especially if you're female. And yeah, I never understood, why some kids, my sister included, but especially boys, just didn't feel that way. They thought the toilet, yeah, I just can't think of a toilet. There isn't a damn toilet in the world that could be as bad as doing it on yourself. You know what I'm saying? The worst toilet in the world is better than having an accident in your clothes when you're past toddlerhood. That's how I feel about it. And that's why I didn't have such accidents. Because I was always good about not farting in my clothes, and always going to the bathroom at the first urge, not the 500th, okay? And so I never had issues with bedwetting and other things like that. So yeah, this video has gotten way too long, but that's what I wanted to say. Farting is not an act of dominance. It's something that you do in the bathroom and nowhere else. So I'll post this video.